Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour tout le monde. J'espère que vous allez très bien aujourd'hui. I just wanted to make a video talking about my experience making friends in TAPIF, and I think that making friends in this program is probably one of the most important parts to really surviving and thriving during this program. And I think that it's really important to make it a priority and to almost kind of strategize and think about in advance what you're going to do or what you may have to do, especially if you're more introverted or don't really like putting yourself out there as much or feel comfortable. Friends are people there that you can really lean on, and everyone there is kind of in the same boat. So that's why I believe it's so important to make friends while you're there and to prioritize and have a strategy before you go there. For me, I was in the Académie de Lille and I lived in Lille, in the city. And my schools were right outside of Lille, so they were actually in Éter and Merville. I almost forgot. And Éter and Merville, they were two little cities that I'm really glad I didn't live there, to be honest. And even the teachers were telling me, like, don't live here, there's not really much to do. And I'm glad that they were honest with me and telling me that, because I then decided to live in Lille, although they did mention that I could live in Armentières, but it ended up not working out for me living there because of a housing situation. Basically, I ended up having to find my own housing, and I decided to do it in Lille. And I would really recommend doing this and living in a bigger city rather than your small towns, if possible. If not possible, pas de souci, don't worry. You will be able to figure it out one way or another. Like I said, whether you just make one really good friend or if you have a small group of friends, honestly, anything counts. Anything counts, especially for TAPIF and for your long year. It's important to prioritize making friends. So I want to go a little bit into just my strategy about how I went about making friends and about my personality a little bit, so you just have some background. For me, personally, it took me about 3 or 4 nights after I gotten there to actually meet up with people, which I was kind of surprised because I am more of an extroverted person. But it is a little nerve-wracking just meeting up with random people, and you're kind of trying to figure out, okay, who am I gonna be friends with? And like, you want to make friends, but you don't want to be too pushy, I guess, trying to make friends. So for me, it actually took probably about 3 nights until I decided to go ahead and meet up with people. And I almost didn't go, and I remember this so clearly because I honestly wasn't feeling the best. I was still pretty jet lagged, and I just got my butt up and I went to the movie theater and I met up with people, and I'm so happy that I did that night. And the way that I did this was through the WhatsApp group. So in Lille, we had a specific Lille and like Lille Métropole, I guess you could say, WhatsApp group, and we were all texting and talking about when people were gonna arrive. And I think it's important to be in these smaller WhatsApp groups because you actually get to make plans easier, and it's a little bit more specific to your city. And this way you can say, oh, I want to meet up at this movie theater or this restaurant, rather than sometimes on the Facebook group if you just post out, oh, I'm in Académie de Lille, or if you're even in the big Académie de Lille or Academy whatever Facebook group, that's a pretty big area, and a lot of people sometimes can't get to wherever you are right away, or especially in the beginning if they're still settling in or arriving. And I think it's a really good idea, maybe in the Facebook group, okay, like, what's the WhatsApp, or maybe someone will post about it. That is definitely the way to go about reaching out to others. Another piece of advice that I would give is that it's okay if you're not best friends with everyone right away. I think for me, I went out and met up with some people at a bar one of the first nights I was there. And it was a couple people from my Académie de Lille WhatsApp group. and we just all got drinks. It was really chill, and we basically left that night, and then I was like, oh, I don't really feel like I was like super great friends with anyone. Like, I don't know if I should like text anyone. I didn't really like text anyone directly afterwards or anything like that, because it was just like a quick night. It was only like an hour or 2 hours of meeting up, because I think we were all still pretty jet lagged and tired. And then for me, I didn't want to get discouraged from that, so about a night or two later, we all met up again and we decided to go to a movie, and that is where I met some of my really good friends that I had throughout the program. So I was very lucky, and like on my second time going out and meeting with people, I was able to meet up with some of my best friends that I met through the program. So unfortunately, when I met up with that first group, I found out that one or two of the people were actually going to be outside of Lille, and they would actually be in Dunkirk and other places around, and that for me unfortunately wasn't very convenient to get to. And so I quickly kind of realized that I probably wasn't going to be best friends with anyone in that first group that I met up with the very first night I was in Lille, or one of the first nights I was in Lille. And so for me, I re-met up with that group, and then ended up actually being really good friends throughout the whole program with some of the girls that I met up with that second night when we were all going to the movies. And for me, I think I just generally followed my gut, but I also was thinking with my head, because I was thinking, oh, they're actually going to be in Lille rather than these people that are going to be in the region of Lille, or like the real Académie de Lille. And so for me, it made sense to kind of talk to them more and get to know them more, because they were going to be more convenient, I guess, to me. And also, maybe this is like a little witchy of me, but I really do think that things do happen for a reason. And so for me, I was just going with my gut, and those girls actually ended up going to a different movie than the rest of the group was that I went with originally. What we were thinking of, we wanted to go to Parasite, and like these other girls wanted to go to some Woody Allen movie that was just so terrible. But at the same time, I felt like I was kind of vibing with those girls more, so then I decided to go with them to the movie, even though I kind of did want to see, I wanted to see Parasite a little bit more, but I knew that was going to be a really good opportunity to just get to know them. I mean, we can't talk very much in a movie, but just to get their WhatsApp or whatever, and just to meet up another time. So that was kind of my strategy. I mentioned this earlier, but it is important to get in the Facebook group, especially the specific Academy Facebook group. And a lot of times there are WhatsApp groups that are even more specific to whether you're in, like I said, I was in Académie de Lille, so there's like Dunkirk, and there's Armentières, and then there's also Lille Métropole. So getting in those very specific WhatsApp groups are actually really important, just to make concrete plans with people and to be in the conversation of what may be going on in your city that night. So another way to make good friends in this program that doesn't really involve just random trying to meet up and make plans with people. So this is for you if you're someone that isn't very good at like starting plans or taking initiative right away, and you'd rather just kind of show up to some like a meeting or something that's already pre-planned. Especially if you want to meet people that are outside of the program, this is a good idea. But going to language exchanges. I know in Lille there are a lot of language exchanges that you could go to, and I actually never went to one, but that's mainly because I met some of my good friends about 3 nights in, so I actually really didn't feel like I needed to go to them, but I kind of wish I would have now that I think about it. That's a regret. Maybe I'll make a TAPIF regrets video, but yeah, that was definitely another option that I was considering. And then also look at Erasmus groups. So a lot of times, and this is if you do like to go out, or a lot of times if you just want to like meet up with people that are from other countries or other places in the world, A lot of people study abroad, especially in university cities. So Lille, there's a university, and so a lot of people in Erasmus were there. And it's like the Europe study abroad. And looking up Erasmus events or groups on Facebook is really a good idea in order to meet other people that might not be from the TAPIF program or even from France itself. Okay, so this is, I think, like my third or fourth piece of advice. Definitely think about beforehand what kind of friends that you want, or like what kind of situations you want to spend most of your time in. So I know that like not everyone drinks, or like not everyone likes to go out. Personally, I do, I guess you could say. Like I don't mind going grabbing a drink with people, but if it's not really your vibe, there are other ways to meet up with people, and there are other ways to get to know people. And like I said, I mentioned earlier, language exchanges are a really good way to do that. And I think this is a great way to get to know people from other countries that are also trying to learn French, or just other students that may be in your city as well. I came up with a couple ideas that I tried personally, and then other ideas that I didn't get a chance to try. Like I mentioned, language exchanges are a really good idea. Picnicking in parks, I love doing that when I studied abroad. Another idea would be going to concerts. So I think even with COVID happening, I think concerts will be starting up, hopefully in Europe in the next year. So a really good idea would be go get a ticket to a concert and then see if other people want to go. And that's what that's what I did. I wanted to see this artist that was coming to Lille. His name was Mac DeMarco. I went and saw him, and I actually ended up meeting up with a girl from my program who also got tickets, and she didn't have anyone else to go with either. So we ended up just meeting up, and yeah, it was a really fun night. It was a really great time, and it was really fun to make another friend while I was there. I also think another really good idea, which I did a lot, was once I kind of met up with people in these groups, we made plans to cook together at our apartments or Airbnbs. So for me, for example, I met up with those girls at the movie, and I got their WhatsApps, that sounds funny. And so for me, I decided that I would invite them over to cook chicken Alfredo, like homemade chicken Alfredo. I don't know. It was good. It was actually all right. It really wasn't that good. But so yeah, we decided to cook together, and that was a really fun way just to like hang out, do something with your hands while you're also like conversing. And it's not something, especially if you don't drink or if you just don't like partying and going out and stuff, I definitely think that's a really good way to get to know people and also have time to do activities, because I think it's important to not just sit and talk, and it's more fun to get to know someone and their personality through doing activities. And it's weird because I feel like I'm talking about this almost as if it's like a strategic way like to date or something, but honestly you do have to go over it in like a strategic way, just to really be efficient, and also that way you can find those friends that you can really connect with and bond with over your TAPIF experience. Another thing that I thought about, I think this is like my number 6 piece of advice, I'm not really sure. It's important to remind yourself, I think it can be easy to get caught up in the idea that you're only there for 7 months, which is a long time, but if you haven't made friends by like the first or second month and then you're like, oh my god, I'm never gonna make friends, I think it's important to remember that it's like quality over quantity. So even if you meet people in your second or third month, meeting people at any time is going to enhance your time there. That being said, also it's important not to lose hope and give up on yourself. Making friends is not easy, despite what people say, and it's definitely something that I've learned to prioritize in my life, and I definitely think it's important to prioritize for your own sanity and mental health while you're there. So for me, I ended up actually living with 3 other students while I was there. They were not part of TAPIF, they were actually from other countries. So I lived with an Italian roommate, a Spanish roommate, and then also a French roommate. And for me, this was a really great way to start making friends outside of the program as well. So I got to live with a French girl who I became very close with, and we still talk to this day, and shout out Laura. I don't know if she's watching. But I lived with other people that were outside of the program and that were students from other countries. I ended up going on shaynester.com. Shea Nester, it's a little bit more expensive, actually kind of a lot more expensive, but for me personally it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it. She lived in France and she's from France, and she is just so amazing, and I absolutely am so glad that we were able to connect through living in the Shea Nester apartments, which are like already furnished, all that, yada yada. But if you really don't know where to start, that's a good website to start. If that's a little bit out of your budget range, definitely consider CAF, which is, I've talked about before. CAF is like this government program that helps you pay for housing, and they paid for a good chunk of my rent, and that was how I was able to afford living through Shea Nester and their website. And for me, I totally thought it was worth it. So yeah, I definitely suggest it. I also want to mention that I think this is piece of advice number 7 or something like that. I definitely want you to know that it's important to prioritize yourself. And despite what maybe your teachers may say or suggest, like for me, a lot of the teachers were like, why would you live in Lille? But then some teachers were like, oh, that's so cool that you're living in Lille. Because it was about a 45 to 50 minute bus ride away from my towns. And then even for one of the schools, it was about an hour away. And to me, the commute was totally worth it. It was, yes, I had to get up early, and yes, I got back later than I would have liked, but honestly, it was a good way for me to read and listen to podcasts and do all this like kind of more independent self-care time. And it was a good way to do self-care and just to check in with myself during those commutes actually. So I really appreciated those commutes, but prioritize yourself. And if you feel like you will make more friends in one city versus another city, like for me, if I would have lived in my smaller town, I honestly don't know if I would have actually made a bunch of friends. I really, not like a bunch of friends, but even I lived in Amantia, which is like a smaller city next to it. I don't know if I would have made friends. I don't know if there were other TAPIFers there. So I'm really glad that I lived in Lille and like prioritize mental health and sanity and enjoyment and all of those things that are good. All right, and last thing to finish off this video, I hope that it was helpful. I feel like sometimes I just ramble a little bit. I just want to say, do not give up on making friends and putting yourself out there. And your timeline is your own, and if you see other people kind of like making friends quicker or whatever, like whether you follow other people on social media or they're talking about it in the TAPIF Facebook group, don't worry, don't stress. Your timeline is your own, your story is your own. It will all work out, and just believe in that. So yay! Donc c'est tout. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Je voudrais juste dire, I would just like to say that I really enjoyed making this video, and it was great to reflect on my time and my kind of strategies that I use to make friends in TAPIF, and I really hope they're of use to you, and merci beaucoup, au revoir, bisous, c'est tout.